All right. Test 1, 2. Making sure everything is online, ready to go. Yes, okay. That looks good, that looks good. I think we'll wait for another minute or two just to see if some more people would like to join the chat, either on Twitch or on YouTube. Please like on YouTube and share so people can join in the chat. Of course, this will be available on playback on both Twitch and YouTube. On Twitch for the next 90 days, or about 3 months. And YouTube, well, until YouTube either decides to close down or I take down the video for whatever reason. Today, as you can see, we are covering Vatican City. Kind of a bit of an oddity. Vatican City is the world's smallest country. Funny enough, not the least populated. There's some countries and territories that are even less populated than Vatican City, but smallest for sure. But we'll learn a little bit more about that in the live stream as we go through. So we're just going to wait. If you're in the chat and you'd like to say hello, feel free to do so. If you have any questions during this presentation, please feel free to ask, but just please keep the questions pertaining to Vatican City. I had my Italian live stream last week, and so if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to indulge maybe one or two. If you missed it and you wanted to, you had a question but you didn't have the chance to. However, this is mainly going to be pertaining to Vatican City, so if we can try and keep questions to that would be appreciated. Crystal on Twitch says, hello, I has question. Yes, ask away your questions, please, before we begin the presentation. Waiting for individuals to arrive. I'm going to be looking sideways because this is where my chat is located. And I have the presentation here because I can't have both running because I need my PowerPoint running. So please ask your question. Unless you've disappeared on me for some reason, which is okay because you can come back. What is the meaning of the word dang nabbit? So dang nabbit is a North American expression. Basically, it's like gosh darn it, or basically it's another way of saying darn it, or aw rats, aw phooey. It's basically it's an expression of immediate disappointment. So, for example, I would say, dang nabbit, the store just closed. Or I would say, darn it, the store just closed. That would be a representation of immediate disappointment in a specific context. You has statement 2. You have something to say, or you have another linguistic question. Maybe for another 2 minutes, and I'll start at the 10-minute mark. I'd like to give people 10 minutes to show up. Apologize for being late. Yada yada. So we will begin in about a minute and a half. And again, this is available on playback. So anyone that's watching, you are missed in the friend server. Yeah, there's a couple of servers that I haven't been on. Just for sheer of, I just do not have the energy. I really don't have the energy to be in a lot of servers these days. So, yeah. We shall begin in 1 minute. This is the 1 minute warning. So, last minute, go to the bathroom. Last minute, get your drink. Last minute, write down your questions. Although you can write down questions throughout the entire presentation. That is cool. Cool. So in the corner, we'll sort of start a little bit now. In the top right-hand corner is the flag of Vatican City. The flag is actually supposed to be an actual square, so a 1:1 ratio square. On the left-hand side is a yellow banner, and on the right-hand side is a white banner with the keys of Vatican City being as the emblem of Vatican, the keys that were given to St. Peter. The biblical lore goes that Jesus had given the keys to the Vatican per se. Jesus gave the keys to St. Peter, who was the first pope of the Roman Catholic Church. The biblical quote is like, "You are the foundation in which I will build my church. Peter, you are my rock," blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that is the lore. That is the story behind the keys of Vatican. And so with the 10-minute mark passing, we shall begin the presentation. Let me actually switch over to the presentation. So, contents covered will be sort of similar with the Italian presentation, but without the travel pass and flight information. That's sort of a introductory thing. So this will be a bit of a, I say shorter presentation. The presentation is still 52 slides, but that's okay. So we're going to be talking a little bit what Vatican City is. We're going to look at imagery of the coins of Vatican. Looking at ticket reservation 101, because you don't want to be that person who doesn't reserve tickets and has to stand in line for 3 hours. Price comparisons on ticket reservations, how to actually buy your tickets in 10 easy steps. I'll be discussing my Vatican City experience and showing off some concluding tips. And of course, the abbreviation notes are of the same nature as the previous Italian stream, but for those who did not watch the Italian stream, here's a quick breakdown. 5 currencies that I will be looking at are the euro, and these will be the original currency. This will be the original currency that the Vatican City currently uses, at least as of recording of this live stream. The Canadian dollar, the United States dollar, the pound sterling, and the Australian dollar will also be featured for American viewers, Canadian viewers, British viewers, and Australian viewers, so that if you don't know, how much 5 euros is in your local currency, I have it right here. Eastern Standard Time, Greenwich Meridian Time, and Central European Time, although I don't have any times listed in here in terms of times and stuff, so we can ignore that for now, but they are there in case of any future live streams in which I need to utilize time differences. And of course, my Vatican presentation just froze, because Microsoft, in its infinite wisdom, thinks it has to save the presentation in the middle of presenting it. It's great. So here we go. Here is the About Vatican City section. This is a map of Vatican City. As you can tell, and as I said earlier, Vatican City is the smallest country in the world, with less than 0.44 square kilometers. I'm sorry I didn't write down how much that was in miles, but I can assure you it is quite small. I believe it's like 100 acres, maybe a little bit more than that. Probably a bit more than that with the extra territories and all that. But you can circumnavigate the entire border using the listed roads on this map, probably in about an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending on how fast you are. And this is it. That is the country. So you can see that you can actually see street level of 102. Okay, thank you very much. 102 acres. As you can see, we're on street level, so it is very tiny. In comparison, it would be the equivalent of a few blocks in a city center if you were to cross from one end of the country to the other, which I actually did, which I'll talk about more in my experience section. The coat of arms of Vatican City, as you can see on the bottom left, is the keys of St. Peter, where Christ had made Peter the foundation of which the church shall be built upon the hill of Vatican. And essentially that is the coat of arms. So 2 sets of keys with the papal fancy, a variation of the fancy papal hat on the top. So yes, it is quite tiny. As you can see, St. Peter's Square is very blank and open, and that is the only section of Vatican City that is actually publicly crossable without needing to enter a security area, at least for now. However, that could change if there is ever an attack. Please pray that there is no attack. And as you can actually see in the bottom center, leaning towards the left-hand side, there is a single railroad that goes into Vatican City, and we'll talk about that in our Vatican City experience section. These are the coins of Vatican City. Prior to the euro, they used the lira, which was actually on par with the Italian lira and the San Marinese lira. So if you're a citizen of Italy or a citizen of San Marino, your coins would be valid in the Vatican City. They would be utilized in the Vatican City. And if you were lucky enough to be a Vatican citizen living in either the Vatican or Italy and traveling between those three aforementioned countries, your liras would also be valid in the others' countries. So they were at par. So one Italian lira equaled one Vatican lira, which equaled one San Marinese lira. Now, these are the basic 5 designs. 4 out of these 5 coins are identical on every single denomination, so that's why I only have one pictured for each, with the exception of the bottom one. So we'll go from, we'll basically go clockwise. So we'll start on the very left. This is Pope John Paul II before he passed away. He was Pope at the turn of the 20th to 21st century. And you can see his portrait with Città del Vaticano on the national design. And once he passed away, the design shifted over to a Vatican City coat of arms, as you can see in the middle design here. On the top right-hand side, we have Pope Benedict XVI. His portrait, again, was the same on every single coin, so I only have the one coin on display. And again, you can see Città del Vaticano on the coin. On the bottom right is the most recent Vatican City coin to be created. This is the one that I will be taking a little bit of a closer look at the end of the presentation. But as you can see, it is a coat of arms that has been stylized to fit the current Pope, Pope Francis. And rounding us off on the bottom is actually the 4th set of designs. However, these are slightly different. As you can see, there are 3 different style portraits of Pope Francis, and so I included these each. So on the very bottom left, we have Pope Francis's profile, similar to Pope John Paul II, and these can be found on the 1 cent, 2 cent, and 5 cent coins. The 10, 20, and 50 cent coins feature the front-facing Pope Francis, and the 1 and 2 euro coins face another side facing Francis. However, for the most up-to-date version of the coins, they are the bottom right-hand side. Now, it is interesting to note for coin collectors that it is extremely rare to find Vatican City coins in change. It is possible. Because of EU regulations, every single country is required by law to have at least some of their coins within circulation in a public setting. Vatican City specializes in collector coins. However, by law, they must have some of their coins minted and distributed amongst the citizens. And so your best bet to find these coins, apart from buying the collector's editions, which are actually pretty inexpensive, they're quite cheap, is to try and buy stuff within the Vatican itself or within businesses surrounding Vatican City, or to try your luck in any store within the Eurozone. However, I will tell you that it is extremely difficult, and your better bet is to actually go to the Vatican itself and to purchase a collector's coin, and I will cover that later in the presentation. So now we'll move on to Ticket Reservation 101. So how to experience the Vatican City. Now there's a lot of information on here, so I'm going to go through each column. So the first one is your standard experience. And for your standard experience, you have 2 options. You have the unguided visits and the guided visits. Now, the unguided visits have quite a range of options. You can just go to the museum as is, without having any sort of special ticket, any special program, any special tour, that sort of thing. You can just go in as is, And you can buy just the reservation ticket for the museum and the Sistine Chapel. Now, you can have the option of having an American-style breakfast. So you can actually go to the Vatican around 9 a.m., 10 a.m., have breakfast at the Vatican. There's a special area that they'll direct you to have an American-style breakfast, and you can begin your unguided tour of the museum. There's an optional early entry, which is usually around 7 a.m. or 7:15 a.m., and including the American breakfast. You can have an optional lunch, where you select your lunch hour, you go down to the cafeteria, and you will be able to enjoy a nice lunch for 45 minutes to an hour. You can have an optional night entry, which basically means that you'll be entering the Vatican after closing, so you can have a nighttime tour. However, with summertime and sunlight hours extending past usual hours of like 8 or 9 p.m., it might not be as dark, but it'll be less crowded than your standard visit. And then there is also an optional night entry with a happy hour, what they call a buffet aperitif, and that is essentially sort of a cocktail hour type thing. So you're gonna have little finger foods. You're gonna have like a little, get together of guests and sort of have a not in mind a party, because I don't think you party at the Vatican, but then it's a little bit of a gathering, and it's like it's quite lovely by what I've heard. Crystal says, keep in mind that this place is haunted as all hell. I can imagine that there would be several deaths within the Vatican, along with several bodies of former popes being buried within the Vatican catacombs. So yes, if you're into the paranormal, I'm sure that there are plenty of opportunities for you to explore the hallowed halls of Vatican. Now, your guided visits, you have 4 main options, and I only say 4. There are technically more. However, they go into the more expensive realm, and for most individuals, these 4 options are what you'll be looking for. You can technically get a private tour where you can pay for your own guide. So you can basically go from 1 to, I believe, 10 or 15 individuals, and you can book your own private tour. So if you're doing like a bachelor party, or although doing a bachelor party, the Vatican may be a bit dull for most people, but if you want to do like a museum crawl and the Vatican's on your list and you want to do a private function, or for whatever reason, you can book a private individual. However, that's going to run you up at least 300 euros, which is easily close to $500 or $600, probably about 200 to 300 pounds. It's quite expensive. So for the purposes of this presentation, you have 4 options for your guided visit. You can choose the option of seeing the museum and the Sistine Chapel. You can do the museum, Sistine Chapel, and St. Peter's Basilica. You can do a guided night tour, which is the same as the optional night entry, but with a guide. And you can have a guided night tour with the happy hour. Now, the guided visit is set to a specific tour, and I didn't list the actual places on here just because the information will be a bit long. But you'll be seeing the major areas, so the cartography room, certain areas of the museum that have been dedicated to a touring group. So look out for that on the museum's website, because it'll actually describe to you what is included in the tour. Next section is the garden experience, and this is the experience that I did. Now, this one's a bit more rare because the gardens are normally closed off to the public. You can't just walk through the gardens freely. That would be really nice, but unfortunately, they don't allow you to do that. The only way to experience the garden is to do a garden tour, and all of these are guided, so there's no unguided tours of the gardens. You must be with a guide. And so the experience that I'll be talking about will be the walking garden tour, which is our first option, which is a 2-hour walking tour of the Vatican gardens. And what's really nice about this experience, and this is one of the main reasons why I did this tour, was because it actually includes free entry into the Vatican Museum and the Sistine Chapel as an unguided visit. So you're essentially getting 2 tours for the price of 1. Your second option is a walking garden tour with the necropolis of the Via Triumphalis. This is a 3-hour walking tour instead of 2, and it includes the usual 2-hour walking garden tour plus 1 hour of the newly uncovered necropolis, which was discovered, I believe, in 2003 or 2004 after the Vatican was placing down a parking lot. They had discovered these ruins and then turned them into a museum section toured area for people to go visit. And this, of course, also includes free entry into the Vatican Museum and Sistine Chapel as an unguided visit after the walking tour. And your final option for the garden experience is a Vatican garden tour by bus. Now, this is a 45-minute bus tour, and it is less thorough than the regular walking garden tour, only because the bus can only go to certain places. You can't drive on pedestrian-only paths, so you can only travel on areas that are designated to be suitable for vehicles. So it is limited to drivable areas. However, you also get free entry into the Vatican Museum. So if you're an individual who's not a fan of walking for 2 or 3 hours and you want to do sort of a quicker tour, then the Vatican Garden Tour by bus is quite exceptional. You see a majority of the areas that you want to see anyway, but that you stay within a bus and you're driven around the garden, and it's actually quite enjoyable. I did the walking garden tour because I wanted to sort of experience the larger portion of the gardens, but I can say that the Vatican Garden Tour by bus is quite extensive as well, and you will not be disappointed if you do the garden experience by bus. And your final option is the train experience. Now, this one's really interesting because up until recently, the Vatican City rail system was only for cargo, so to bring in items and to basically bring in supplies for the Vatican. And it was not until recently that they actually allowed tours with tourists to come in by train. So what it starts is a full day tour option. You start off at the Vatican Museum and the Sistine Chapel having a guided tour for 2 hours. You have a Vatican City Garden walking tour, which instead of the 1 hour experience, instead of the 2 hour experience, you get the 1 hour experience. At 11 a.m. at the end of the garden tour, you'll be departing from the train station to Albano Laziale, and you'll be transferred to the Pontifical Villas by shuttle. You will then be touring the Pontifical Villa Gardens at 12:30 for about an hour, and then you have free time. Now, I'm not exactly sure what constitutes free time because I didn't do this tour, but feel free to do research online. Ask Vatican questions. They'll be able to answer your questions via email because they have their own email systems. And at 5:10, the group will be meeting at the Castel Gandolfo train station, and you'll be departing 14 minutes later to Roma San Pietro station, which is not in the Vatican, but it's a separate train station that has an affiliation with the Vatican. You can also do this with a lunch tour. So basically, instead of having as much free time, you would dedicate some time with lunch. And you can have a full day tour plus, which is the same day as the full day tour, but you add the Apostolic Palace of Castel Gandolfo, and your free time is shortened. Crystal has been discussing her experience with the nighttime experience. For the YouTube viewers, she says it was scary. Legitimately, you could see people in period clothing. I even asked the guide, there were no actors. I had a conversation with somebody next to me, and there was nobody next to me. I swear there was a shadow on the floor. He even answered me. And when I do Paris, she will tell me the horrific encounter she had in the catacombs. I was not fortunate enough to visit the catacombs, so that will definitely be an interesting story to tell. So this is sort of the note-taking process. So if you have questions about taking notes on the prices of Vatican City, then please get your notepads ready because the prices are coming up for you now. These are all of the prices of the unguided visits. Now, there are 2 categories of tickets. There are the regular tickets and the reduced rate tickets. Reduced rate tickets are available for basically children under the age of 18. So if you are a parent who wants to bring their child to Vatican, you can get the reduced rate ticket for them. Excuse me. And if you are a university student under the age of 25, with the presentation of your student card or an international student identity card, you can also do the reduced rate. So I was very fortunate enough that because I was a university student at the time and my student card was still valid, I showed them my student card and I was able to get the reduced rate ticket, so that saved me a bit of money. So as you can see, a regular visit is normally 21 euros, and I will tell you right now that if you go onto the Vatican City website, they may show you a different price. That is because there is a semi-hidden booking fee. It's not really hidden, it is shown to you. And of course, the prices are going to vary depending on if you are in a group tour or in an individual tour. So again, just be mindful that these are the prices from the Vatican City website as best as I can display them. And this doesn't break down the entire cost of everything. So, I'll show you that in a later slide. So as you can see, regular visit is 21 euros, 32 Canadian dollars, 23 US dollars, 19 British pounds, or 34 Australian dollars. However, the regular visit reduced rate, so the rate that I would pay, was 12 euros, 18 Canadian, 13 US, 11 pounds, or 19 Australian dollars. So as you can see, there's a significant difference between 32 Canadian dollars and 18 Canadian dollars. It is quite extensive. So if you do have that, if you are a university student under the age of 25, I highly encourage you to go visit Vatican before you turn 26, because you'll be able to take advantage of the reduced rate. And as you can see, there is a visit with breakfast, early entry and breakfast, lunch, after hours visit, and after hours visit with the happy hour. And of course, all of that with the reduced rates are available. These are the prices. So if you're watching the playback, please pause now and write down the appropriate numbers that you'd want, and we'll move forward to the guided visit prices. And these again are the same sort of situation where you have the regular price tickets on the top and the reduced rate tickets on the bottom. And as you can see, you can have the Vatican Museum and Sistine Chapel guided visit for 33 euros, or 24 if you are a university student or if you are under the age of 18. I will give people a moment to either write down or pause the video, and you will be able to go through the appropriate currency and the appropriate tour that you are interested in doing. And again, all of these prices are available on the Vatican City's website, so you'll be able to look at these prices for yourself, look at the various other options, and to make a decision as to how you wish to visit the Vatican. These are the Vatican garden prices. So the one that I did was the walking garden tour reduced rate. So I ended up paying 24 euros instead of 33. So I ended up saving about 9 euros just by being a university student under the age of 25. And it was amazing. Such an amazing way to save money. As you can see in Canadian dollars, it is 50 Canadian versus 36. So you're automatically saving 14 Canadian dollars, which for me is quite extensive. For Americans, you're saving about $10. For people in the United Kingdom, you're saving about £8. And Australia, if I could do math correctly, I'm looking at $14, I believe. So it is quite a savings, and you can easily buy yourself lunch, or you can buy yourself that extra little souvenir for the price difference. Crystal is continuing with her ghost story. Basically, I got lost and was chased by something that was in no way human. The sounds it made, it howled and charged at me and my friends. We looked it out of their hands, out of the wall, wailing in the distance, snapping sounds of bones, voices screaming, shadows charging at you. Never go in there. I believe she's referring to the Parisian catacombs. So, for your thrill seekers out there, then I'm sure that you'd be more than pleased to experience the catacombs for yourself. And of course, these are the Vatican by train prices. So as you can see, there are significant savings with the reduced fares. And there are significant price differences, including inclusion of lunch or inclusion of extras. And I'll give my basic opinion once I go through my experience in terms of whether it's worth it to actually get lunch or whether it's best just to skip lunch altogether, that sort of thing. So I'll give people a few moments to either pause the video to write down your appropriate prices or to just let people view my magnificent chart making skills. I do my best to make sure that as many prices and currencies are, or at least the major currencies are, adequately represented for mostly my demographics, but for major currencies around the world. So now we come to the portion of the presentation where we learn how to book Vatican Museum tickets in 10 easy steps. This is the website below. If you want to write it down, it is biglietteriamuse.vatican.va. What's nice about Vatican City is that it actually has its own domain. So like in Canada, we have .ca. In the United States, you have .com. In the UK, you have .co.uk. In Italy, they have .it. And in Vatican City, their domain at the end is .va. So this is the web address that you'll want to go to book your tickets. So pause the video to write down this URL or to type it into another tab as you're watching this. If you wish to follow along, that's okay. I have images of every single step, so you'll be able to keep track as we go through. So let's start with step 1. So get onto the online ticket office and select your desired ticket type. Now, there are other options that are not pictured here, such as those who are looking for pilgrimages, for university group tours, educational tours, that sort of thing. But for most tourists, you'll be wanting to look at the first 5 options, which is Vatican by train, night openings, admission tickets, breakfast at the museums, and guided tours for individuals. And as you can see, the 6th option, guided tours with an exclusive guide, which allows for groups up to 15 people who want a guided tour. You can pay for your own exclusive guide, so you're not with 15 other strangers, but rather 15 of your friends and family. However, this does cost several €100, and so for most tourists, you will be avoiding that section and only dealing with the first 5 options. So please select your desired ticket type and move on to step number 2. I have selected the garden section. So in this case, I will be selecting Vatican Gardens by bus. Step 2 is to select your desired ticket reservation. And please note that there are other options not pictured here, but I selected the first one, which is the Vatican Gardens by open bus. The description reads, "The open bus ride enables visitors to admire the beauty of the world's smallest state, rich in important monuments, works of art, and natural and national wonders." Tickets are non-refundable, and open bus tours take place with an audio guide. And of course, there's other information listed on the screen, so it allows the visitor to be part of a Vatican group tour conducted by an official Vatican tour guide. You will have to go through security entering the museum, and the meeting point will be at the guided tours booth, which is located straight ahead up the small staircase on the left-hand side. And there are signs that'll point you to where you need to go, and staff members that will be willing to assist you in finding your point. So if you do get lost, have no fear. The staff are there for you to utilize. Reservation changes may be made up to 72 hours prior to the date, according to availability. However, I do recommend that you do book your tickets in advance because, of course, you don't want to deal with sort of last-minute struggles. So please book your tickets at least a few months in advance, so that way you have the best chance of getting the right spot. Step 3, after you've selected your ticket type, is to select your desired month and year of visit and to select the number of tickets desired. So if it's just for myself, I have one participant, so one ticket, and the month and year that I want to visit, I want to book a few months in advance, and so I would select the appropriate month that would be available. And again, it does tell you for people for information specific to that type of tour. So you can say the tour is not available for children under the age of 6. No exceptions will be made. The tour will be allowed upon purchase of a reduced ticket only for children from 6 years old up. And this type of visit is not available for wheelchair users. Step 4 is to select your desired date of visit. So as you can see, there are plenty of green spots available for July 2019 that you can select. Green represents that there are plenty of spots available, so please feel free to select any one of these dates. Yellow is more minimal spots that are available, so it's starting to book up quite fast, so they recommend that you book as quickly as possible. And red means that there are no spots available, and as you can see, on Sunday there are no tours available with this particular one. And in fact, the museums are actually closed on Sundays with the exception of the last Sunday of the month, unless it coincides with Easter Sunday, the 29th of June, or Christmas and Boxing Day. Step 5 is to select your desired time of visit. So as you can see, we have 5 options. So we can select from 8:45, 9:15, 10:15, 12:15, and 12:45. So select your time that you want your tour to begin. So if you're very much of a morning person, or if you want to wait until later in the afternoon. And again, the green spots are the same as the previous step. A little tip that I can give you now is do not show up more than an hour early at the appointment. I showed up about an hour and a half ahead of my scheduled time, and the staff told me to basically leave and come back. Because there were some people that came like 2 or 3 hours ahead of time because they thought the lines would be really long. But we were actually forced to leave, which was quite disappointing. I had to actually end up lining up twice, which was quite disappointing, but the line moves pretty fast. So again, don't show up to more than an hour early. So if you pick the 10:15 tour, do not show up before 9:15 because you will be asked to leave. And again, the lines go pretty quickly, so don't be concerned about getting there too early because you have a reservation as opposed to the other individuals who are getting in for free. Step 6 is to select the type of ticket. So you can have your full price ticket, as you can see here, for €37, or for the reduced price are for children ages 6 and 18, and for university students up to 25 years of age on the presentation of a student identity card or an international student card on the day of a visit. If you are unable to present your student card on the day, you'll be asked to make a payment for the full price ticket, and you will not be refunded the reduced price ticket that you bought. So you're essentially buying 2 tickets. So please make sure to have your student identity card presented. Crystal comments, €37. How about no? Do keep in mind though, Crystal, that this is both a guided garden bus tour. So you're paying for the audio guide, you're paying the €4 reservation fee, and you're paying for the actual guide themselves. So you're paying them sort of part of your salary, and you're also getting access to the Vatican museums, which are normally, oh geez, I should have actually remembered the price on the top of my head, like €18 on top of that. So instead of paying for 2 tours separately, you're paying for just the one. 37 euros is way too much. Again, this is a garden bus tour, so this is an extra option. Of course, there are much cheaper options for guided and unguided tours, so if you're on a budget, unguided is perfectly fine. You don't have to go to the gardens. I just recommend it because it's a little bit of an extra thing that most people don't really get to see that often because the gardens are quite gorgeous. However, for the budget savvy, the regular tour and the regular unguided tour is perfectly fine. Crystal said she once paid $70 for a museum, or €70 for a museum. That is quite expensive. And it was worth it. It's always good to make sure it's worth it. Step 7 is entering your personal information. So in this case, entering your last and first name, selecting your gender and country. Your city is optional, but for identification purposes, you can put that down. Your date of birth, your email address, confirming it. Your telephone number is optional. Selecting the language of which your visit is to be in, and there are probably several options that you can choose from depending on the type of tour. And to enter the name of their participants. So if you are buying 6 tickets, then each ticket needs to have a name associated with it. That is to have in the Vatican's systems, so in case there needs to be identification purposes or whatever. And then, of course, scroll down to agree to the terms of service. Once you have done that, you can confirm the reservation and input your credit card information to pay for the reservation. It is highly advised to pay for the reservation in full. That way you don't have to worry about making installments. You just pay it all in one shot. And I believe from my own thing, if I were to buy one ticket, there most likely is a monetary limit. So if you're putting a down payment or I'm blanking on the English word that I need to use, like a deposit, that's the word I'm looking for, a deposit, then it will confirm that. So you conclude the reservation, you pay for it in full, and you will receive your voucher by email. This is what your voucher will look like. I had to sort of Photoshop the top half and the bottom half together because I couldn't save this outside of a PDF because there is security to make sure that it's not edited. So I can't just go and edit the date and edit the scanning codes and try and fake my way into the museum. So anyway, step 9, you will receive your voucher in your email, print the document, have the physical copy, and bring it to you to the Vatican City Museum entrance, which will be located on the side. Basically, just follow the line of people along the Vatican wall, and you will be able to find the entrance of the museum, and there's a special line for ticket holders, and you will see. If not, find a member of staff, and they will be able to direct you. And step 10, show this to a staff member outside, and they will direct you to the appropriate line, because there will be multiple lines, some for group tours, some for individual tours. Once inside, you will go through security, which includes a metal detection system, so please don't bring anything stupid like knives or really long stick-pointed umbrellas, that sort of thing. Be smart with the things you bring. And once you've gone through security, head to the guided tours desk. You will then hand them the voucher along with an identification to receive your actual ticket and information package. And once you have received your ticket and your information package, you will proceed to the numbered meeting points. There are several meeting points in the Vatican, and it'll say like meeting point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there will be a list saying, garden tour, 11 a.m. and it'll tell you exactly where to go. And in fact, on here, it says PAX 1. So I went to booth number 1. I presented my ticket and my identification to the ticket guest there. And from there, they are able to admit me with my audio guide. And I proceeded to go to my meeting point to meet the guide, get the earphones, and start the guided tour. Now, as you can see on the center bottom of my voucher, it actually breaks down the price for me. So as you can see, the actual reduced ticket price is €8. That's how much it was to actually do the tour. The guide was €10.50. So this is basically how the guide is getting paid, is essentially this €10 fee. The reservation fee for utilizing the website is €4, and then the group tour, which includes a pair of earbuds and the audio device, is €1.50, so it comes up to a total of €24. So that's why it is much more expensive than just a standard ticket, because you're not just paying for the ticket, you're paying for the guide, you're paying for the reservation fee using the website and for the earphones. And all of this money is either to pay for the staff at the Vatican to maintain their website, because it does cost money to maintain a website, and to continue funding earphones for guided tours and for other Vatican City initiatives. So this is what your voucher will look like. It gives the date of visit, Thursday, May the 3rd, 2018 for my specific. The type of visit, guided tours for individuals, Vatican Gardens. The time, 11 o'clock. language English, my name, the group which is bought online, the code, and the sort of the QR code in the corner. That's what they use to scan it. So this is what your voucher will look like. So make sure to print this and bring it with you. This is the ticket that they will exchange for your voucher. So as you can see, there is on the right-hand side is the sort of front of the ticket. It's the nice artistic design saying Musei Vaticani. And on the back is the information that basically says the ticket is valid only for one entry at the date of issue, and it will not allow re-entry. So once you leave the museum, you can't go back in. And as you can see, the ticket costed me €8. And basically it just provides all the information. As you can see, I bought the ticket specifically, or I received the ticket specifically at 10:44 in the morning, so about 16 minutes before the tour was to begin. And I still have this ticket with me. I don't know if I have it like physically with me, but I do have it. No, I don't know if I kept it nearby. No matter. But anyways, this is what the ticket looks like. So this is what your ticket will look like as well, similarly, but of course it'll have different information on the back as to what type of tour you are doing. Now, here we've come to my own Vatican experience. Before we move on, does anybody have any questions about booking tickets, about more information on the different types of Vatican experiences, or are we able to move forward to learn about my experience at the Vatican? I'll give chat a few minutes to formulate their questions if you have any up till this point. Yeah, you're gonna. Yes, it's approaching 1 a.m. for you, isn't it, Crystal? So yes, Crystal's gonna go to bed. So have a very wonderful evening. You're gonna miss the photo slideshow, but that's okay because you can rewatch it tomorrow. So have yourself a wonderful evening. And with no other questions, let's proceed. So this is sort of a zoomed-in map of the Vatican City Gardens. So I visited several areas of the gardens through the 2-hour walking tour. I visited the Vatican Radio Administration building, which was essentially Vatican Radio. I visited the Lourdes Grotto, which is essentially a recreation of basically a holy site of Lourdes, which is in France. I visited just the outside of the railroad station, just outside of the art gallery on the top center, the monument to St. Peter, that sort of thing. So I basically was able to cross the entirety of Vatican City back and forth, which is quite interesting. So here is basically the outside of the Vatican. So as you can see with the line of cars, there's also a line of people which line the outside of the walls. So if you're ever confused as to where the entrance of the museum is, there it is. You just follow the line of the people. This picture on the bottom left is actually the exit, which is not the exit that I used. We'll talk more about that later. And this is another section of the giant wall of Vatican with doors accessible for Vatican citizens and utility workers. This was the waiting area that I had stayed in before the tour began. So actually you see on the top right, that is not actually a painting, that is a mosaic that used to be a floor. However, it was brought up and restored and turned into a piece of wall art. And as you can see, some of the wall architecture on the bottom left, and a layout of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Because it is forbidden to take photos in the Sistine Chapel, this is sort of the guest's way of getting to see the Sistine Chapel's ceiling. Now, beginning the garden tour, you follow the path of the guide, which is either a series of roads or a series of pedestrian paths. So we're crossing by part of the art gallery, or at least the outside of the art gallery, where you see other tours being conducted, and you can see statues, and you can see on the bottom right, you can see St. Peter's Basilica's dome in the distance. And as you can see, Vatican City is home to amazing works of art, architecture, and plenty of forests. There are actually many tree species that are imported from all over the world, including bamboo and cypriot trees from Cyprus. And you can find all sorts of different species of flora, from flowers to trees to shrubs. Palm trees and oaks and elms and just all sorts of different foliage. It's truly beautiful. There are even turtles that live in the Vatican, so there's also fauna as well. Of course, there aren't that many, but they are home to a small turtle sanctuary. And as you can see, the dome of St. Peter's Basilica in the distance. And of course, more examples of absolutely beautiful and incredible art. A recreation of caves, recreations of various monuments. And of course, on the bottom left-hand side, you have Vatican Radio's tower, broadcasting tower. Now, Vatican Radio is a member of the European Broadcasting Union, so they are technically eligible to participate in the Eurovision Song Contest. However, the Vatican has since declined to be actually part of the competition, mostly because most of Vatican doesn't have a lot of singing talent, and their priorities are more on spiritual matters rather than participating in a singing competition. But nevertheless, Vatican City Radio does provide its listeners to a wide variety of various programming, including music, prayer services, and discussions. And as you can see, there are some beautiful pictures of statues of flowers, and they are all over the place, fountains. And these are very peaceful. And I imagine that if you're the Pope, or if you're a cardinal and you have the power to close down the garden tours on a whim, then of course you can enjoy the beauty and the splendor of the Pope's Gardens. And these are all maintained by Vatican City staff, by Vatican City citizens, of which there are about 800 of them. So it's quite heavily populated, but of course, it's such a lovely garden to tour in. So I highly encourage this tour because it was very beautiful for me. This is a walking section that I filmed to go see the grotto in Lourdes, or at least the recreation of that said grotto. So as you can see, it is an artificial reconstruction because caves don't normally come in square shapes like that. But the grotto is on the inside. You can see my tour group in front of me, so I'm a bit lagging behind because I wanted to take pictures of other areas. But as you can see, this is the recreation of the miraculous site of Lourdes. Now, in Lourdes, in France, there have been rumors of miraculous healings to have taken place. Individuals who came in crippled would go to the holy site, drink from its waters, pray at its site, and come back miraculously healed. Again, I can't attest to that because I've never been to the actual one, but that is the lore behind Lourdes. And of course, it is a magnificent sight to see. You can see it is gated off to prevent individuals from tampering with the inside, but you can get right up to it, as you can see that I'm doing, to try and get some shots past the metal bars. Of course, I focused on the wrong section, and I eventually focus in on that section, and you can see the inside that has been recreated. And as you can see, there's a gate there to allow Vatican City workers to come in and clean whenever necessary. And as you can hear, it is quite a peaceful tour, except for obviously when the tour guide is talking, but of course that is expected. On the top right, you can see a train from the Vatican City rail network coming in, or being ready to depart out of the gates. And actually, you can see that wall where that gate opening is. That is the actual border of Vatican City. So right over that ledge is Italy. So it's always neat to see an international border so close. Bottom right is, of course, the actual train station itself with vehicles parked. And of course, touring groups who want to do the Vatican City by train tour, this is the train station that you'll be going to with your tour guide. And on the bottom left-hand side is a section of the Berlin Wall that was donated and to be part of the Vatican as a reminder of the times that were held between East and Western Berlin during the time of German separation. Sunset hosting me, thank you very much. Sunset on Twitch for hosting my live stream. For those of you just joining in, I am just finishing up the garden tour portion of my trip, and I'll be proceeding to the museum portion. Again, this is available on playback at any time, so please feel free to watch back. Now, when you're finished your garden tour, you enter the area that is photographed in the top right. This is the gift shop. I highly recommend buying gift shop items here because you may not have another opportunity to buy gift shop items later on. And there's all sorts of things from books, CDs, you can buy rosaries, you can buy postcards, you can buy paintings, sketches, you can buy maps, you can buy all sorts of touristy things. And they are well stocked. Now, do be careful of Vatican City prices because, of course, it's all going to be inflated. Hello, Sunset on Twitch. Welcome to the live stream on Vatican City. Pro tip that I will give to you now and that I will repeat at the end. Go to the Vatican City post office. There is an outlet here in the top right. If you proceed to inside the gift shop and you head straight through, so basically where the photo is facing, you enter and you turn left, and you follow that all the way down towards the a little bit more towards the right. As you're walking, there will be a little section that'll have the Vatican City post office where you can actually send postcards through the Vatican City postal system. I would recommend buying some postcards beforehand, writing them out at the post office, and then going to the attendant saying, I want to send my postcards to which country. They will provide you with the proper stamping, and you can send your postcards along the way, and you can buy collectible coins and stamps at the post office as well. Now, of course, there were so many sections of the Vatican that I wanted to go see, and unfortunately, a lot of them evaded me. One of them was, in fact, the numismatic section, which actually contained coins and stamps from the Vatican. I really wish I had more time to actually do that because I would have loved to actually go and see that, but I didn't have enough time. I wanted to see the rest of Vatican, so I missed out on that section. But if you're a coin collector, there is a numismatic section, so please feel free to visit that. The first section that I visited was sort of a catacombs section, which I didn't realize until after the fact. So as you can see on the bottom left, you can see someone's coffin, essentially, which is carved very intricately. And you can see on the bottom right-hand side, there are several mosaics of human bodies. And actually, funny enough, in the garden tour, we were able to see the outside of the section. So that was also very neat. And this is a video section of me walking through. So as you can see, this is pretty open. There's not a lot of people here. There's only a few individuals that are walking about. So you will find that in certain sections of the Vatican, there are very crowded areas and very dead areas. There were actually some areas of the Vatican where there is not a single tourist. There is not a single person in that section. I was completely alone in that room with the exception of a security guard, because there are security guards pretty much in every room. But I was the only tourist there, and it was simply amazing to find sections of the Vatican that were just not crowded. So if you do go to the Vatican, be mindful of certain sections that will be crowded and certain sections that won't be. As you can see, these are pieces and remains of various mosaics, various memorials, pieces that have survived from ancient ruins that have been recovered and have been put on display. And of course, there are intricate works of humans, of catacombs. Of course, these are some coffins that have been intricately designed. Now, of course, it is not allowed to touch any of the pieces of the art, even though they look tempting to touch and to feel, unless they have been specifically designated for touch. Please make sure not to obviously touch any of the pieces in the Vatican, because they are pieces of priceless art. And as you can see on the top right hand side, we have some Greek. So we can identify. I can identify some of the letters of Greek because I have taken Greek, not successfully, but I have taken it. So we have the letters Enthade, which is Enthad, I believe, Enthad or Enthade. We have Kappa, Epsilon, Iota. It's not Theta. It's Tau, maybe. And then Eta again. You have Pi, Rho, Iota, Mu, Epsilon, Iota, Tau, Iota, which is primity, so maybe like primitive or primate. Bameta, Togelo. Here I am trying to pronounce Greek. But anyways, you get the idea, where there's basically just some Greek letterings. On the bottom left-hand side is the pine cone courtyard, is what they sort of casually refer it to. It is an open courtyard that visitors are able to view, and as you can see on the bottom right, there I am with a bit of a selfie with the courtyard. You're perfectly able to walk the courtyard to sit on a bench and enjoy the sunshine. Of course, the lawn is cut off so that people don't just go stomping on the lawn and ruining the grass. But there are outdoor sections of the Vatican, so you're not stuck inside all day long. And funny enough, in the Pinecone courtyard, where the Pinecone is on the bottom left, I was actually able to go through some of those windowed sections and see through to the courtyard. And those were the areas of the museum that were quite dead. So there weren't a lot of individuals in those sections. Now, I had lunch in the Vatican, and I will tell you right now, it is not worth it. So if you're thinking of doing a tour with lunch, just don't do it. It's for me, it's not worth it. The food is... Now, again, this is my experience, so maybe other restaurants in the Vatican are a bit better, I don't know. But the lunch that I had was really terrible. As you can see, the picture of food is on your top right. This is supposed to be a Tuscany burger. Notice the lack of bread or the lack of actual condiments. It is literally a piece of beef with some little scraps of bacon on it, with some vegetables, potatoes, and some bread. And this costed me about, I believe it was 16 euros, which is quite expensive for lunch. I mean, the food was okay, but what was the worst part is that, as you can see in the bottom right-hand side, the actual restaurant is very open planned. As you can see in the gaps, there's no solid walls. We can actually go through them, and pigeons would fly through in the restaurant. So you would have pigeons on the tables doing goodness knows what on the tables. So they were not sanitary at all. So you had to make sure that your cutlery did not touch the table, otherwise you risk getting sick very easily. So I highly recommend do not go to this restaurant. There are better places to get food in Italy. Eat before you come to the Vatican, or if you're capable, eat after. You're not allowed to bring food into the Vatican, so don't try and bring like snacks or anything like that, because it won't work. You can get food in the cafeteria. Maybe that might be a bit better, but I did expect more from this, and I was quite disappointed with the Vatican City food, I must admit. Here's some more pictures of art. So we have a mosaic on the floor that's sort of been roped off and people can go see. The bottom pictures are from the Egyptian exhibit. This one was also less crowded, so if you're looking for less crowded areas, the Egyptian section is usually a good go-to. And there are audio guides for pretty much every single section of the museum that you can listen to. So you punch in the correct number and it'll tell you a history of the object or the section of the museum, and you can do an audio guided tour on your own. Now, if you're looking for painted ceilings, the Vatican City is the place for you. It is not just the Sistine Chapel that contains painted ceilings, but of course, all of these other examples of painted ceilings, and they are as intricate in detail as the Sistine Chapel is intricate in detail. And as you can see in the bottom left-hand picture, there are a lot of people in the room, so you will be in certain areas that are very crowded. So if you are not good in crowds, exercise caution, because there will be very crowded areas and the crowds won't disappear. And there are sort of small gift stalls along the way in certain areas of the museum. I would just ignore them entirely, because there are gift shops before and after the museum that you can go visit. Yes, and they are quite amazing to behold. They're much better in person, obviously, so photographs can only tell you so much. Especially my photographs, because these aren't the greatest pictures, but as you can see, they are quite lovely and detailed. And of course, there is no shortage of statues and plaques, so if you're into art history, or if you love religious art and even non-religious art, there are plenty of examples. There are also contemporary pieces as well. So if you're looking for more 20th and 21st century paintings, the Vatican does have a dedicated section to that. And as you can see, there are all sorts of variations on statues and of plaques from all various eras. So you saw the Egyptian section earlier. There's a Greek section, there's a Roman section, there's Renaissance, ancient sections. There's everything. And of course, there is a little courtyards throughout the Vatican, as you can see in the top right-hand side. This one's a bit more crowded, but there are plenty of little alcoves. You can easily get lost in the Vatican if you don't have a map. And I can tell you right now that if you do the garden tour and the museum, you won't be able to see all of the museum. The Vatican do take a full day to explore the entirety of it, and even then you won't see everything. So if you can go multiple times, it would be really sort of beneficial. But for most individuals who only see it once, try and plan out your visit ahead of time. Look at a map of the Vatican saying, I want to go to sections this, this, and this. And again, you will see the sections that you want to see, and for the others, you sort of have to compromise. On the bottom left, you can see frescoes of various depictions of Christ, and on the bottom right, you can see the Galleria de Carte Geographique, which is basically the gallery of geographic cartography. So these are painted maps. And they are quite lovely. Really quite detailed, name places, all sorts of different things. And here we are coming down to the end of the actual tour of the Vatican. So as you can see, there's more crowded rooms with various flags depending on your tour group. And this is the end. Now, you are not allowed to take pictures of the Sistine Chapel, so I did not take pictures of the Sistine Chapel. And I have a wee bit of a confession to make. I did technically break the rules a little bit. So once you're in the Sistine Chapel, there are two exits, one for individuals and one for groups. I took the group entrance. Now, you're not supposed to, because it is designated for group tours only, and they will attempt to police people to the right exit. However, I took the opportunity to sort of circumnavigate the rules a little bit. The chapel was very noisy, which is unfortunate, but it was also full of people, so the people of Vatican City staff were desperate just to keep people moving. I was able to sort of duck into a group tour and sort of follow them in a way. And I kind of recommend following that path, but be very cautious. Obviously I'm supposed to say, please follow the rules, go to the right exit. But honestly, for me, it was very easy. I didn't get stopped at all. And just as long as you're going in with a group of people that are like massive, not like a small group, but like a large group of people that you can easily get lost into, just keep following the tour group, and you will end up in the pictures on the right-hand side, which is just outside of St. Peter's Basilica. Now, St. Peter's Basilica is free to tour, However, there is a very long line to actually get into St. Peter's Basilica. However, if you sort of follow a tour group, inadvertently you could technically sneak into this to St. Peter's Basilica. Now, I didn't because I was exhausted by the end of the tour, and I'm like, I can't handle this, so I wanted to spend some time out in the St. Peter's Square. But this option is technically available. It's illegal, so try not to do it. But it is humanly possible to do such a thing. Yes, Sunset is noting me as a rule breaker. Yes, I know. But yes, if you do decide to break the rules and follow the group tour exit, it will take you past some smaller gift shops, which are actually quite lovely. I actually bought a rosary from a nun, so it was quite lovely. I bought a very lovely rosary, and it will take you to this area. And then once you leave this area, then it will take you straight to St. Peter's Square. So instead of ending back up and then having to walk all the way around the Vatican, this will take you straight to St. Peter's Square. So you can sort of end your tour in the public open space, which is quite nice. And this is the view that you get. So on the top right is the view that I got when I first left the tour. And as you can see, that is St. Peter's Square. And the chairs are set up for Mass for the next day. So I wasn't able to attend Mass because it was the day that I was leaving Rome. But if you are lucky enough to try and get into Mass, try and get there as early as possible, because you can technically attend Mass at the Vatican City, and it is quite a pilgrimage if you are religious. If you're not religious, then, don't worry about it. The bottom left is the actual building of St. Peter's Basilica, and there is a line on the very far left. You can see probably little dots of people on the line. Again, you'll probably be waiting in line for several hours, so the best way to see St. Peter's Basilica is to actually book a tour that includes it, because you just go straight through. And of course, you have various sections of St. Peter's Square, which used to be a chariot racing ground, and it got converted into a religious square. This is the panoramic shot that I took with my cell phone, and as you can see, it doesn't make any sense because it's a panoramic shot, so it's a bit wider than usual. But as you can see, that is basically the border. If you see the tan lines on the left and right-hand side where the fence is, that is the actual border of Vatican City in Italy. So that is the official international border between Vatican City and the Republic of Rome. And you can see St. Peter's Square open and perfectly accessible for tourists. There is the obelisk and various carvings on the obelisk. So as you can see, they have roped off certain sections for Mass, so to keep sort of people in line and to make sure that there's no sort of big time mess for crowd control, so it's pretty straightforward. And this is a video of me crossing an international border. So as you can see, I just crossed the border. There's my feet going back and forth. I crossed the border yet again. No passport needed. That is an internationally recognized border between Vatican City. As you can see, I am in the Vatican City right now. And I turn around. I head through the border. I have now crossed into Italy, and there is Rome. So as you can see, it's one of the nice oddities of Vatican City and Italy being an open-bordered country. As you can see, it was very easy for me to cross the border. I didn't need to show my passport to a crossing guard or any sort of thing. I just walked straight through. So here are some concluding tips. Buy your reservation tickets ahead of time. Again, as I stated in my previous live stream, don't be the moron that decides to go visit the Vatican on a whim. Get your reservation, buy the tickets. It's worth skipping the line. The only exception is if you're going on the last Sunday of the month, then it is free to visit Vatican City on the last Sunday of the month only, but there are no tickets available, so you will be waiting in line. Loki on YouTube, hello, welcome to the stream. I'm doing a Vatican City travel Q&A, so if you have any questions on Vatican City, we are nearing the end of the presentation, but I'm still taking questions at any point. As I said again, Vatican City museums are free on every last Sunday of the month from 9 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. with the exception on if the Sunday falls on like Easter Sunday, Christmas, that sort of thing. Make sure to check the Musei Vaticani website, which is the URL is right there, for opening and closures. Certain sections of the museum may be closed for repairs or for refurbishments, or for events or for whatever purpose. So please check the website regularly to see when they close, if you need to make changes to your reservation or that sort of thing. When you're visiting the Vatican City, imagine if you're visiting a church. So please make sure not to wear any low-cut or sleeveless clothing. Don't wear shorts or miniskirts to the Vatican, and no hats are allowed inside the Vatican. So it's if you're going to church. So, dress more conservatively, dress appropriately, because it is a sign of respect for the Vatican and its citizens. It is permitted to take photographs for personal use only of the works in all areas of the Vatican museums except for the Sistine Chapel. Flash photography is strictly forbidden, so please don't bring your flash cameras. Turn flash off. It's in an effort to reduce damage to the paintings, because light can actually damage paintings. It is the pigment of the paint that is affected by light, sources of light, so they want to make sure they can preserve the paintings for as long as possible, because these paintings are several hundred years old. The use of tripods, stands, and or professional equipment is not allowed. So this includes selfie sticks. So don't bring your selfie stick. Don't bring tripods. Don't bring your professional photography equipment. Just bring a simple point-and-shoot camera or your cell phone. Something I didn't put on this, but cell phone use is sort of try to keep it on the minimal. So don't have a phone conversation in the Vatican. Make sure that your phone's set to silent. Use your phone's camera. That's fine to take videos and photos, but no flash. Now, this rule is the most strictest rule that I have to recommend and have to say this is a strict rule. There is no exception to this rule. There is no photographs allowed of the Sistine Chapel or any films with any type of electronic equipment. This includes cell phones. Cell phones are not allowed in the Vatican and in the Sistine Chapel, sorry. So please keep them in your pockets, in your purse, whatever. This rule must be respected above all others, because I can tell you that I saw 2 people try to take pictures with their cell phones quite openly, despite there being at least 20 signs saying no cameras, and Vatican guards will call you out, and you may be escorted off the premises if you are found to have broken this rule. Again, it's part of the preservation of the artwork, and it's also out of respect the fact that it is a chapel, and so this rule must be respected above others. So please don't try to sneak pictures, because you're gonna get caught. These guards have their eyes on everyone, and respect the Sistine Chapel for what it is. Vatican City is a sovereign country separate from Italy. There are people saying, oh, Vatican City is not a country, it's not in the UN. It is a sovereign country, just like Canada is a sovereign country, just like the United States is a sovereign country, just like the United Kingdom is a sovereign country, just like Italy is a sovereign country. It is separate from Italy. It is not a part of Italy. It is just completely surrounded by it. Vatican City has its own laws separate from Italy. However, most of their laws are similar or identical to Italy, just for common sake. However, Vatican City is its own country, so you must respect that. And they're not Italian, they are Vatican. Now, Italian is the official language of the Vatican City. However, they also use French for their diplomatic purposes. Excuse me, and they will have Latin for certain purposes, so you will encounter Latin in the Vatican City. But again, most of the staff, in fact, all the staff, I think, are required to speak English anyways, because it is the tourist language of the world. But yes, Vatican City is a sovereign country. No matter what anyone else tells you, it is a separate country, fully sovereign in its own right. It is also highly advised to not speak ill of the Catholic Church. I know the Catholic Church is not perfect. I know that there have a lot of issues with the Church. And you know what? To have those thoughts and opinions is fine. Just don't go blurting them out. Have some respect. This is the heart of Catholic Christendom. The respect is the key. So even if you're not religious, that's fine. If you're Jewish or Muslim or Hindu or Buddhist or Zoroastrian or whatever your religion is, that's fine. You can have your own religion. That's perfectly fine. but respect is the big key. So, you know, if you're not a fan of Christianity, either keep your mouth shut or don't go to the Vatican. Are the two options that you have. Seriously, just don't speak ill will of the Catholic Church, because they're not going to take that sort of abuse. If you're not religious, that's fine. You don't have to be religious to go to the Vatican. You can be as atheist as you want. You can believe in the flying spaghetti monster all you want. That's fine. But again, please be respectful, because it's so key to make sure that you're basically almost an ambassador. As funny as that sounds, you know, your job is to be a guest of the Vatican, and to not speak ill of them is just the best thing to do. Loki asks, "What is a chapel?" For those who are not familiar with the religious lingo, because it's not known to everyone, a chapel is a form of church. In a sense, it is a room that is designated for prayer, for spiritual contemplation, and for meditation. The Sistine Chapel is a bit different, because it is open to tourists. And most of the time, tourists do not observe the silence rule, even though I wish they did. A chapel essentially is a mini church in layman's terms. It is a small, usually small building. Some chapels are a bit large, but most chapels are quite small, and they are pretty much just the same as churches, except on a smaller scale, and they may have specialties, such as designations for prayer, designations for meditation, all sorts of different things. So yeah, basically a chapel is a form of church, like a church building, essentially. Another tip is to mail your postcards from the Vatican City post office. So if you're in Rome and you have postcards that you want to send from Rome, unless if you're like me and you want Italian stamps on your Italian postcards, use the Vatican City post office. They have the exact same monetary rate, so it'll cost you the exact same to send a postcard from Vatican City as it is from Rome. But the Vatican City post office is actually a lot faster. And the Vatican City actually issues their own stamps, and so you'll be able to have a very special Vatican City stamp on your postcard, which is actually much more rarer to find than it is for Italian post stamps, because Italy obviously is a lot larger country. They have a lot more resources to print stamps. Vatican City usually print stamps for collectors, but they do have their own postal service, and so you will be getting very special Vatican City stamps on your postcards, which is quite a souvenir in and of itself. So I do recommend using the Vatican City post office instead of the Italian one. They will mail your items a lot faster, and I believe there is an external post office outside of the museum that you can utilize. And that goes the same thing for packages and for larger envelopes. You can mail pretty much anything from Rome to wherever you need to. It's quite fun to actually use the Vatican City post office to get card in the mail and get, you know, the Pope's face on a stamp is really cool. And the final tip that I have is to visit the Vatican City post office in the gift shop area. You can buy coin cards and stamps. It's extremely rare to get Vatican euros in change, because they only make so many coins per year, like maybe 20 or 30,000 total, as opposed to some countries that utilize in the hundreds of millions. So if you compare 10,000 to 500 million, it's quite a large difference. And so there are limited mintages available for certain coins in Vatican, especially for circulation, because that 10,000 number, probably 3/4 of that will be for collectors. And so you'll have an even smaller amount only available in circulated change. So the best way to complete your coin collection is to actually go to the Vatican City post office in the gift shop area, buy your coin cards there. They are, I believe I paid €3.50 for mine, and it was a 50-cent piece, and it has Vatican right on it, and that's a Vatican City euro. And actually, here's a picture of it. So on the very top right-hand side, this is the official coin card number 8. And of course, there is a series, and they all cost, depending on what type of coin you're getting. Some of the older ones might cost more because there's lower mintages. And then on the bottom right, you can see the back of that card. And as you can see, there is the nominal value is 50 euro cents. Version BU, which is basically the 8th. It's the 8th coin card, but it's the 5th design. So as you can see in the center, that is the design of the coin. It says Città del Vaticano with the coat of arms in the center in the year 2017. You can see the names of the sculptor and the engraver. The mintages actually come from Italy because the Vatican City doesn't actually have a mint within its border, so it does come from Italy, but they are designated Vatican City stamps, Vatican City coins and stamps. And as you can see, there are only 60,000 coin cards made available for this coin, as opposed to 500 million of other regular euro coins that may be available in change. And of course, it is freshly minted, so it is uncirculated. So these are quite fresh. They're quite clean, untouched by human hands. They are quite rare, and these were, again, really cheap. They were €3.50 for this particular card. And of course, if you mail your postcards from the Vatican City, you will get Vatican City stamps similar to the ones that are listed or that are shown here in the slide. Either a picture of Pope Francis, you might get a picture of Jesus, other religious iconography, or pictures of Vatican architecture. In this case, it is celebrating the 90th anniversary of the founding of Vatican in 1929 to 2019. So it is quite a spectacular occasion to be celebrating. So if you ever find yourself in the Vatican, you can buy stamps for €1, €1.10 in this case. And yeah, getting the coin collector cards are definitely quite worth it, so I highly recommend it. So we have reached the end of the presentation. I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by, and to thank everybody that stopped in earlier. For those who have missed parts of the presentation, this will be available for playback. So if you missed anything and you want to rewatch certain sections, learning about how to purchase tickets, information on the Vatican City itself, then please feel free to rewatch on both Twitch and YouTube. But I will allow anyone else to ask any final questions before we sign off. So if you have any other final questions about anything about the Vatican at all, whether you want to learn more about tours, my experience at the Vatican, anything like that, please feel free. Otherwise, I will end the stream. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to formulate any questions that you may have. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Crystal, Sunset, and Loki for joining me today, and for to those who viewed but didn't have any questions in the chat. And I'd like to thank you for watching this presentation. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave comments down below. I will make sure to try and get back to them as soon as I can. And seeing as there are no other individuals with any questions, I'm going to end the presentation here. So thank you so much. Our next presentation will be on the country of San Marino. And as you can see in the back, this is the flag of San Marino. This one may take a little bit longer to put together. I'm not 100% sure as to how I'm going to do that presentation. But I hope to get it done this coming week. And I will give an announcement beforehand to ensure that people are notified so that you can bring your questions about San Marino, the world's oldest republic. So I look forward to that presentation. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful evening or morning or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. Have a good one.